Yeah. Well, we're coming down to the last 20 pages. It's been a journey. it, it has been a journey, but I do feel that Darwin has taken us deeper, more consciously into the heart with a greater awareness of all the different impelling forces and patterns and everything. It's beautiful.
Jeff,
And
this is Janet.
yeah,
I wasn't here last week, so I listened to it.
yeah,
And my question is about sublimation.
yeah,
I never really quite, I don't have a handle on that.
yeah. Well, anyone feel like chiming in on that? Mayor Prasad is usually very good at, and I'll chime in too. But what would you say, Mayor Prasad, about sublimation?
So, I mean, the way I do is, I think I shared this last week, is, when I get angry or have hatred, I try to convert them to Baba. And when I worry, I try to convert that longing into longing for love and longing for Baba, instead of suppressing whatever longing I was having in the worry. So
Yeah, I think I gave the example like in AA where you have an addiction, and in the AA program they convert that addiction into serving others and helping them others help to get out of the addiction. You sponsor somebody, you so that your own kind of selfish addiction is converted over to concern for the plight of others. So the energy gets sublimated into a positive channel rather than a self-destructive negative channel. that's that's one way. Um, so in a way, taking your selfishness and moving to something that's more selfless. Taking that same energy, but putting it in a positive direction or an altruistic direction rather than a uh, just for selfish ends. Does
That
that
makes,
help at all,
yeah,
Janet?
that they both help. They both help. I mean, I remember both those being said, both of them, but now for some reason I'm grasping it better right now.
Yeah, I mean, like Darwin said, that sublimation is the new mysticism.
I know, and that's what seemed so such powerful words, and I felt like I should really have a better grasp of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I could just idle my time away here during this pandemic, but I've taken that energy and put it into gardening. Something creating beauty rather than spinning my wheels, so to
Mhm.
speak. I mean, I'm just giving you different ways that we can link, we can move toward uh, a more positive use of our life force, you might say.
I think the important point is to not repress whatever we are
Yeah,
feeling, especially in the worries. Worry is basically imagining something that would happen that you don't want to happen. And instead of stopping the imagination, you would imagine something related to Baba. Basically, you know, instead of suppressing it completely, just
yeah,
translate that into something related to Baba. Maybe imagine him being there, or imagine him creating the circumstances, and so on.
yeah. Or even give the worry to Baba rather than just wallowing in it. Make that effort to give it to Baba so that you're sublimating that worry into returning it to the sender, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
we're all involved in, I mean, this whole life with Baba is, we're involved in sublimating a selfish life into a more loving life. I mean, we're all involved in that, and it takes so many different forms. And then when you get fed up, you just drive out to an island and leave it all behind.
Do not expect obedience, loyalty, or proper conduct from this drunkard. From the day of creation, I have been destined to be a slave of the cup. From the moment I took ablutions from the fountain of love, I turned my back forever on everything in the world. Give me wine, so I can reveal the divine secrets to you and tell you whom I love and whose perfume has intoxicated me. Here, the waist of the mountain is smaller than the waist of the moth. O worshipper of wine, do not leave the door of mercy in hopelessness. May my life be sacrificed for my beloved's mouth in the garden of his Nazar. The gardener of the world has never created a blossom as beautiful as this. None can sit under this azure sky so beautifully, except the drunken eyes of my beautiful Amaryllis. May he be spared the evil eye. Due to the grace of your love, Hafiz reached the state of Suleiman, which means in striving for union with you, he has nothing in his grasp but the wind. So, Jeff, Suleiman must be King Solomon.
Yeah.
And King Solomon supposedly ruled for a long time, and it is said that the wind was his ally and helped carry his huge throne from place to place. The wind would also inform him of all the news in the kingdom. Despite all his supernatural powers, however, he eventually lost his throne and did not obtain the eternal kingdom.
Uh-huh. Boy, that was a beautiful guzzle.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And
Wow.
this line about the waist of the mountain being smaller than the waist of the moth, I figured he means humility is a strength over arrogance.
Yeah. Yeah, Baba says humility has at least as much utility as at least as much value as utility. Humility.
Jeff, on humility, it's so hard to distinguish between humility and modesty, but Baba gave a great tip on how to develop it. He said that it's very hard to control anger, and whoever is able to control it, they'll become humble.
Yeah. I once asked Erich, can you cultivate humility? And he said, no, it's something you radiate. So it kind of, when you, like you're saying, if you control anger and everything, the humility comes through, but it's a quality that's radiated rather than kind of developed in the way other qualities might be developed. Shall we go for a moment of silence here? And then we'll begin. Jai Baba. Here we is. Um, so let me mention that anyone that wants to stay on sometime after 7 and would like to join in a heart-centered, Baba-filled meditation with Stu Baker. It's a lovely thing. It's short, but you get to a very deep place. And I recommend it. I enjoy it much myself. And so I wanted to say just a couple of words to begin with. I think many of you met Mansari. Mansari was this little diminutive woman, one of the women Mandali up on Upper Mehrabad. And she used to call Baba her sneaky sweetie, my sneaky sweetie. And Mani would say Baba, her brother, was very tricky. And I'm going to relate this to the meditation that Baba, that we've been covering in the last couple of sessions, which is the Sahaj Dhyan, where Baba says that you wake up in the morning and you dress your soul with Baba. Now that's a kind of an adventure and a discovery in itself. What does that mean to you to dress your soul with Baba? And at noon, at 5, and before you go to bed. But Darwin and Jean and those of us around them would have a laugh out of this, because you're really getting tricked into something, and this is how it works. Say you wake up and you dress your soul with Baba, and then you start into the morning, and then you realize, oh, wonder what time it is. Oh, it's 10:15. Well, I got a meeting at noon. I might forget it. I'm just going to dress my soul with Baba at now. And then you check your wallet, your watch again. Oh, it's like 1:45. Well, I'll just I'll dress my soul with Baba now, because I may just get involved in this meeting and I may forget Baba. And so then the next time you look at your watch, it's 1:15. You forgot the 12 o'clock. So, oh, well, I forgot it. Well, I'll dress my soul with Baba now. And then you go on into the afternoon and you think, well, I wonder what time it is. Oh, it's 4:30. Well, I'll dress my soul with Baba now. Baba said just force. He was just asking the men that he gave this meditation to for 4 seconds. But as it turns out, it becomes, and he said that if you do this 4 seconds for him, you will have his presence throughout the day. Well, it gets, you see, you're getting tricked into remembering him, so that eventually you just got the string of beads with all these moments of remembrance that are scattered over the day, and eventually you're remembering him in a lot of your spare moments. So that's how you get tricked into, he's asking for 4 seconds, and we used to laugh because we're kind of fitting in here and there, just because it's very hard to remember those 2 times. So that's so you might have fun with that. Now the other thing that I happen to remember, Erich used to say in Mandalay Hall from time to time, and we've brought this particular subject up a number of times. Erich would say, "You Westerners," he would kind of do it with a kind of wry sense of humor. "You Westerners, when you come up against an obstacle in your path, you make these Herculean efforts to kind of rise above this obstacle and come out the other side. In the East, when we come up, we find an obstacle in our path, we just fall at his feet." So there we have what we used to talk about, plan A and plan B. And I know in my own life, I've done a bit of plan A and plan B, and actually plan A is starting to win out as I get older. But anyway, that was something that Erich used to say. So we're on page, I guess, 96. And Angela will call on people to read and they can pass if they want, but don't hesitate to chime in or share anything that is touched off by the reading.
All right, page 96.
This is leave the room you're in. One of the main requisites of the spiritual path is that as spiritual aspirants, we are willing to give our lives for the Master, for God. Meher Baba says, to be willing to die for the happiness of the beloved is true love. To die before you die, to die to the self, to die for the beloved. This can be a means of precipitating our consciousness to a freer level of experience. Dying to oneself is not a temporary letting go of imagination, but a willingness to surrender the egoic life and be born of the spirit. Dying to ourselves and being born in the spirit is like going from the room we are in to the room next door, where the furnishings are entirely different. This we understand. It is clear to us. We have to leave this room in order to go into that room. We cannot take this room with us. Our consciousness is the vehicle stationed in the room we are in currently. When our consciousness is in this room, but we want it to be in that room, we have to be willing to leave the room we are in. It's as simple as that, although seemingly difficult for us to do.
Hey everyone. Yeah, it's interesting. What came to me with that one, I know at certain times in my life, I've kind of been aware of the room I'm in. For instance, if I don't know, I guess what's coming to me is if you have like a certain emotional or mental pattern and you realize like, oh wow, I act like this, I do this, and you can change that. And other times it's amazing. It's almost like you're not aware of what you live in until you have some life experience or some big event that forces you to have to so radically change what you've been living in and what your patterns are, your group of people you used to hang around. So it's just real interesting. I guess how I feel with it is that like a certain amount of that is within your consciousness, the room you live in. And like another part of it, it's almost like life just has to step in and, sometimes by a forcible way, kind of show you like, yes, you are stuck in this, and this is the next step of your life is, to step out of this and into that. And, I can think of probably 3 distinct areas in my life so far, where there's been some big event that's happened. And after that event, it's just whatever you were living in before, it was just completely different after going through that loss or that death or, or that big life change. So yeah, I guess that's just what I wanted to say is seeing how much of an effort we can make to become aware of what we're living in, what that room is and get out of it versus what part Baba's grace just kind of has to step in and show us what we're in that we might not be aware of.
Beautiful description, Anthony. That's brings it very graphically to us. Anyone else?
Cindy?
I have more of a question. I'm having an experience with one of the lines that I have when my ego is like pulling a veil down, like kind of there's Last Stand where it's like wah, wah, wah. So I'm usually close to something, but this sentence that says, I'm having that experience with the sentence, the end of the first paragraph that says, dying to oneself is not a temporary letting go of imagination, but a willingness to surrender the egoic life and be born of the spirit. I don't understand the sentence, the beginning part, dying to oneself is not a temporary letting go of imagination. and into that second sentence. So I was just asking, I just want to know like what your thoughts on that or anyone's thoughts on that are, what that means.
Anyone want to answer that? That's I know I kind of puzzled over that myself. What, but anyone can give us some clarity on that.
There were a couple of hands up before you asked, so
Oh, yeah, we'll come back to that.
yeah. Paula?
Okay. This reminded me of, because of Rosalie's inspiration, I've been reading more of Norina. And Norina uses, she uses an expression over and over again, and it's an exchange of consciousness. And that's what this, somehow it makes this easier for me. It's like, we're not it's really not losing something, it's exchanging one level of consciousness for another when we go from room to room.
Yeah, that's good. I know it's, I mean, the way that I gather from Darwin, it's the consciousness. You don't have to change, you don't have to get rid of all your furniture. You just have to stop identifying with that room and move to another room. You don't have to like, move into another house. It's just that you don't identify with those things. They don't mean the same thing to you anymore. And so your consciousness can move to another place.
Seems a little easier that way.
Yeah. It's not a renunciation, not like Baba says, mental renunciation, and not physical renunciation.
Hi. So just in response to Cindy a little bit, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, okay, good. When it says dying to oneself is not a temporary letting go of imagination, it certainly isn't temporary. This is it. You're making a choice. It's a choice point. And because if you're waffling and thinking, well, I can go back and forth, it's not a dying to oneself. It's a kind of sort of toying with the idea of it. But actual surrender is a choice. And that's basically what I was going to say on my own, which is that this is about choice. You can't have it both ways. You can't have one foot in this life and another foot in the spiritual life and get there.
Yeah.
A choice is required, and it's a big requirement, and it's a liberating requirement. That's the good news.
Yeah.
You don't get the liberation and the freedom of the spirit until you surrender. You die unto self. That's what I wanted to say.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It's not like dining out every now and then.
No.
I just want to say thank you, Betty. That helps a
Yeah.
lot. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And Rita?
Oh, I'm unmuted. Okay, hi, Jay Baba. In 1980, in February of 1980, after a year of trying on my own to quit drugs and alcohol, I went into AA. And it was like, and I had desperately tried, I had lived a very spiritual life, but I was still an alcoholic. It was like walking into a portal because the collective consciousness of that society lifted me up and out of myself in a way that I could imagine a new life and actually succeed in a new life. Just a few months later, I went to work at a company where Walter Overkarsh worked, and he told me about Mayor Baba. And, you know, it was just like one thing happened and the next thing happened. And then, you know, I found my master, I found my Lord, I found my God. And it was just a complete surrenderance and change, a 180 degree change in my life that I've never gone back to. And, you know, I'm just really grateful that it's just what somebody said about surrendering. But for a lot of us, you know, we have to get to a point where we're really in pain to want to surrender, to want to change. But I'm just so grateful, and I just feel so many things happened during that time that I can look back and see how Baba just orchestrated the whole thing. And not long before I got into the program, I don't need to tell you who I was interested in or whatever, but I know I said out loud, if I'm going to have a master, I'm going to have a perfect master. And it didn't take long. I mean, I committed that in my heart, and it didn't take long for that whole process to happen to me. Thanks.
Beautiful, beautiful, Rita. Yeah. Yeah, Baba has lifted a great many of us out of the room of the world on its own terms into the world from a spiritual standpoint, for sure.
Yeah, and Jack.
Yeah, what you just said, Jeff, sort of preempted what I was going to say. But to me, I just took down the walls. That's what I did. That's what I did to, you know, to get into the consciousness and awareness of the spirit. It's the only thing that worked for me.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's another way of thinking of going into another room. You just knock down the walls of the room you're in into a larger expanse.
And Hugh?
And what Jeff just said about knocking down the walls is the way I picture this, based on somewhat on what Betty said about making choices to surrender. If you knock down the walls of your ego room, what you are, you're in the house of God. You are God. And so that becomes the you and I are not we, but one experience.
Yeah, beautiful. Look what Baba has given us. It's amazing. You know, I would like to ask this question. I mean, Darwin uses the expression to be born of the spirit. Now, this is another room. But how do you read the meaning of that? To leave one place. I mean, what Hugh was talking about or Jack was talking about, but anyone who can define a little more graphically what it means to be born of the spirit.
Well, I'm not answering your question, Jeff.
Okay.
But I mean, in everyone speaking, I very much respect what everyone says, but my own experience is that I do go back and forth. I mean, sometimes I feel very, very like my soul is clothed in Baba. And within 10 minutes, I can be back into my worries of the world. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding something of what people are saying, I mean, even though I always come back to Baba, you know, for sure, you know, but I get lost, and sometimes I get really lost on a train, like Darwin talked about taking the train. I sometimes get on the wrong train for a while, to be honest with you, and I look at the scenery and it's not so beautiful, and then, you know, something takes me back, like coming to these meetings is something that clearly takes me back, and you know, and various other things, but yeah, so I'm just maybe am asking for a little more clarification about that. I mean, when I hear other people talking, I'm hearing about the walls of the room knocked down and that they're constantly without their ego, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty this is more advanced than I certainly have ever experienced.
Anyone to respond to Janet? That's a good thing you brought up, Janet. That's
Well, thank you, Janet. For me, the choice is to plant my feet with my heart in the spiritual life. And the experience of being human is that my mind is drawn into all kinds of places and slips and slides. And the feet of my heart are planted in the singular choice for the spiritual life. And I'm human and slip and slide all over the place. That's what it means to
beautiful. Me. Yeah. Yeah, and I could say, Janet, that you know, we get pulled here and there and into these things, but there's one part of us that doesn't quite buy into it hook, line, and sinker anymore. And that means that you're really in another room. you're even if you're getting pulled into all sorts of worldly things, there's one part that just doesn't buy into it, because there's a greater, you know, there's a greater freedom within you that and so you may be experiencing the same thing that the others are talking about. It's hard to get all of this into English.
Yeah, I mean, this is making sense to me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the clarifications. And like Betty, I mean, I don't know if I'd be here after 51 years if I didn't have my feet planted in the Baba, you know, and it's a matter of course, holding on to his Daman, but but sometimes, I mean, I get mesmerized, I have to say. I get fairly strongly mesmerized.
You know, I might bring up something here that was really helpful to me, and it might make sense to you. Something that an exchange I had with Erich. I was, in my early years, I was I call myself a Baba remembrance machine. I was just going to Baba, 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 and everything Baba, Baba. And, and Erich, and we were sitting right outside Mandalay Hall with Price Branch, we had been house painters. And he said to Erich, you know, I'm a house painter, and sometimes hours go by, I've completely forgotten Baba. You know, I'm just into this job and I'm not remembering him. And what can I do about that? And Erich said, in the beginning, it's important to remember Baba, to say his name, to see the movies, to read the literature, go where Baba has been. But in time, it becomes important to forget yourself. And when you forget yourself in something, Baba can live through you, but you're not aware of it. You know, But when you come out of that absorption in something and you remember, then when you remember to remember him. So this is a turning point in my life, because he was saying, get absorbed in things. There's nothing wrong with that. When you come out of it, then make sure that you remember Baba. But the self-forgetfulness and the Baba remembrance they complement each other very beautifully. And when you're really into something, because I asked Margaret Crass dancers, they were these great ballet dancers on these very excellent productions. And I said, most of them were devoted to Baba. And I said, do you remember Baba when you're out in the dance on the stage, when you're performing? And they said it didn't work to remember Baba. They would remember Baba before, then they would get lost in the dance, and then they would remember Baba afterwards. So sometimes what might seem like a worldly attachment may be actually self-forgetfulness. I mean, my Baba remembrance made me kind of rigid and a little weird. So Erich kind of straightened me out with that, with what he said. Anyway, throw that out. I don't know if that rings a bell with you.
I'm thinking the words are getting confusing, and I have an example that I don't know if this helps or not, but anyway, maybe it does. I had no clue I was on a spiritual path in my life. I mean, I had had a few experiences where suddenly the thought of God came into my mind, and it seemed like it was like kind of an ecstatic experience for me afterwards. But then when my daughter was born and she was handed to me and I first looked into her eyes, it was like the veils fell away, and I realized I had been paying attention to the world instead of to God. And that it was like, that was not what I wanted, that I wanted to pay, that I was looking at my daughter and her eyes were God. I was just looking at her and I saw her and that she was God. And there was just no question. And so the import of that was just so startling to me. It changed my life. And from then on, my entire perspective on life, and I would say that was the different room, was completely different. I mean, I was looking at things from that perspective. God is the most important thing. That's what I'm here for. And I don't know if but I feel like we can kind of get caught up in the definitions of things, and it's the words, it's like words are tricky. But when you have the experience of suddenly finding yourself in a different place, you know it. And I suspect lots of you have had some experience. It might not have been the same kind of drama as I felt it, but others, I think, pretty sure you have.
Yeah, very touching. Golly. There's a line from Tagore: every child brings with it the message that God will never forsake mankind.
Yeah, I was also puzzled by the temporary letting go of imagination and how imagination connected with the egoic self. And I have to say also, sometimes I'm not really sure when I'm in my ego and when I'm in my higher self. But this made me think of something that I've heard from a different path. Self-realization means shedding the layers of error so that the real self, the divine, eternal inner being, comes to the fore. You can shed these layers of pain, error, confusion, and limitation only when you are willing to look at yourself as you really are instead of as you want to be. And that instead of as you want to be is what I connected with imagination. I mean, are we imagining ourselves as we want to be rather than as we really are? And I hope that's not going off in a completely irrelevant direction, but it just rang such a bell with me. And I sat on it and I sat on it. I thought I just have to say something about this.
Yeah.
And
Very relevant.
so I did.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And Stuart?
Yeah, it makes me think of a couple of things. First, if we dress ourselves again and again during the day with Baba, as you say, Jeff, he's with us and we're with him, even in the midst of busyness and being in the world. And recently came upon some quotes from Rumi saying that if we do things with our whole heart, then there's a divine joyousness in that. And to me, that is a connection with Baba also.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the link.
Yes, first I guess I would comment on the imagination piece, whether we are actually thinking of who we are or what we want to be. And the first thing that comes to mind is how can any of us really know who we are or imagine who we really are? It seems to be unfathomable. So in a sense, it's almost always has to be imagination. So, but on another piece, I find myself struggling lately with going into another room and wanting to go into the other room, feeling as if I'm trying, I'm surrendering and I'm seeing things, but constantly seeing myself just get frustrated or my body all tense. And I guess I'm just wondering if anybody has any thoughts on that, on how to, where to go from there, because I feel like I can see, I'm aware enough to see that I'm doing it, but it's like no matter how much I want to surrender, it just keeps coming back.
Beautiful question. I mean, very relevant question. Anyone to speak to that?
I was feeling like last week when I tuned into this meeting, I think I saw it the day later, and I was feeling kind of like really weird. So I paid attention to what the story was about dressing yourself in Baba, and I just started doing that and making myself get into these meetings, and just realizing that I can change how I feel. And yeah, I'd been meditating more and walking and just trying to let go of this anxiousness. I was still hanging on to a bit of this feeling that, well, why can't I get rid of this? And then I just starting to let go of it because I just start thinking about Baba all the time. And I think the imagination, doesn't it mean illusion? Like, so you're stepping out of, what we think is real isn't really real. And we're turning ourselves over to Baba, which is changing the room, because then you're like dressing yourself in Baba all the time. Then you just start thinking about him all the time, so that's what I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm pretty lazy. I must be pretty lazy, because I get in trouble when I think about myself, and I have no idea where the rooms are. It's like if Baba doesn't show me or take me, I'm pretty clueless. And I guess that's pretty much all I have to say, except what there was another thing. It was like, oh, I've been reading in the boys too. Baba would tell them not to copy anybody else. And I think in that kind of, and yesterday we were talking about Michael DaCosta too, and his experience. And it seems like, you know, we each just have a journey, and I think the thing for me is, it's like, Baba better take care of it, because I don't know anything and I don't know how to. And I don't know where the rooms are.
Yeah, we got some rooms for you. No.
And Mary Barrett?
Hi, yeah, okay. I came in late, so I missed a lot, but just listening to everybody, in my own life, I'm finding that I just need to keep asking Baba for help and reminding myself that Baba is taking care of everything, and that that's really my work right now, is to just continue to turn to that trust. And it's hard. It's hard to always trust. You know, I take it back. And yet remembering that Baba knows that I'm not perfect. You know, Baba has so much compassion, you know, this divine compassion. And it's my effort to do my best, which is always going to be different, and to not put myself down, even though I may, you know, and to just continually turn to him and say, please help me. And yeah, that's the, and I just wanted to share that. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that Mary kind of puts it like, that other room is this turning to Baba. Is another way of looking at it. If you're turning to Baba, you're definitely turning to that other room. You're moving your furniture. Well, you don't even need to move your furniture. You can leave that where it is. But you're moving your consciousness toward Baba. So you are moving into a different room. Yeah.
Okay, real effort. We have to work at surrendering. We try to surrender, and then we have the help of the Master. Meher Baba says, the Master helps the aspirant in his own invincible ways, which have no parallel in the ways of the world. If the aspirant is to be the recipient of this help, he must make a real effort to surrender himself to the divine will of the Master. This should be in bold print, real effort. Surrenderance of the false self is not something that is done just once. It is repeatedly done over and over. And as we surrender, we move in the Spirit, experiencing more and more of the unlimited consciousness of the Master, of God. This is what it means to be born of the Spirit. We surrender the false self to the Master and live through the provisional ego, which is subservient to the Master, our higher self, or God. As we begin to surrender to the Master, laying down our sanskaras, our burdens at the Master's feet, putting our trust completely in him and accepting his grace, we are taking a major step, letting go of the world. From our point of view, we are doing it to unburden ourselves, to be freer, because we are fed up with all the reincarnations, one after the other, and all the complications that go with them. but it is really spiritual progress. We have moved in the spirit. We have taken a step away from the illusory world and the limited self and made a step toward the reality of God and the unlimited consciousness of God. To be born of the Spirit is a wonderful experience, but that is not enough. We still have to work and become free of inner subjective things that create veils over our consciousness so that we do not perceive the truth as it really is. We have to continue to surrender our self-will in favor of the will of God, which means putting desires and lesser values aside for the real value. I don't understand what it means to live through the provisional ego. We surrender the false self to the master and live through the provisional ego. Is that different from the ego that we're trying to transcend? The provisional ego, which is subservient to the master, our higher self, or God. So I
Yeah,
think you notice things when you're reading.
Yeah. No, what Baba has said about the provisional ego is rather than thinking that you are doing things, it is Baba who wakes up. It's Baba who goes into work. It's Baba who embraces this one. It's Baba who screwed up on that thing. It's Baba who got angry at somebody. It's a particular way of viewing things that it really is Baba doing everything. So that it's not you, you're not thinking that you're doing things. It is this a different way of looking at viewing what you're doing in the course of the day. It's it's Baba going to sleep. It's Baba eating lunch. Now, this is not an easy thing to do, to actually experience in any kind of real way the provisional ego, but it is one of the best ways of getting out of this mess. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's how Baba defined it.
I didn't quite follow from the beginning. Are you saying that the provisional ego is that saying whatever I'm doing, I have to think that it's Baba who's doing it?
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying? Okay.
Yeah. And
Thank
for
you.
it to become a little more real, that it's not just a mental exercise, but you start to get a sense that it is Baba who is doing things through you. And
That's good. I can blame him for a lot.
yeah, no, Baba said if you're going to blame anybody, blame him. You know, it's very hard to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Robin?
And what he says about that is that it's still an ego, but that ego gets so thin that when you're ready, you can just throw it off very easily. He can, break through it when you have done that enough, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know, Robin, I think it may have been you, but this working on the blending of the mind and heart, it's paramount. But that's working on the heart has always been very, very difficult for me, for reasons beyond my comprehension. But I've always gone with my gut in doing a lot of things, not really knowing why, just moving along with it. And I think maybe it was you, Robin, but the other day someone mentioned on one of the Zoom meetings in the morning that they've discovered with the heart that the heart has neurons and synapses and probably glial cells too. So that means that you can work with your heart as if you're working with your mind, but you're really not working with your mind, you're working with your heart in the same way. A little more. It really might make a big difference in how it's about all of this. So that was a very enlightening piece of information for me to consider.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack. Yep. Well, these are all great insights that you are all and experiences that you folks are sharing for sure.
Robin again.
Yeah, they found that the heart operates like a brain, and there was just one story of a little girl who got a heart transplant from another little girl who had been murdered, and the girl that got the heart remembered the incident, and they actually found the murderer through that. And there's been quite a few instances where people who get a heart transplant have the memory of things that happened to the other person, because there's actually brain function in our heart. So if we can get our heart to vibrate, or that's not the right word, at the same level as the brain, we get a balance between the head and the heart, which is what Baba says we're here to do. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. The best thinking is from the heart, from the intuition. You might say it's not even thinking; it's just insight. I wanted to say something about that. Again, he uses the phrase "born of the Spirit," and one way to look at that, and that I gather from Darwin, is I don't know if you can go back to early childhood, but in early childhood, you live in this expansive present. There's a more of a timeless quality. One day can last a month, because it's not wedged between worries about the past or nostalgia about the past or anxieties or dreams of the future. You're in the present. And there's a certain timelessness and there's a certain spaciousness. There you're moving from the kind of ordinary ego experience into the a more embodiment of the spirit. Like kids in early childhood before they start education, that's too bad. They live in that, and so this is not a foreign place to us. We live that in our early years, that spacious and timelessness of the spirit. And now I think of this. I mean, what I gather from Erich is where Baba's drawing us back to that place, and in a way, that's the place that Darwin and Jean, you could see they lived in that spacious and timelessness of childhood, but now they have a knowing that they're not going to squander this time around, as we do when as we move from early childhood to the rest of our life. So this is, like I say, it's not an abstract place. It's something that we have all had, and we continue to have flashes of these experiences, I'm sure, of spaciousness and timelessness as we're living this life with Baba. But eventually that becomes more and more permanent, more abiding.
So I'm listening so appreciatively to everybody's wonderful thoughts. And all of a sudden I remember what helps me to be in my heart and not in my ego is, as I am here even, all of a sudden I began to breathe in Baba's love and breathe out Baba's love, and just breathing in Baba's love and breathing out Baba's love as I do, or I try to do in meditation. And there's a little story I can share at a poetry workshop I went to, in which we were asked to write a poem. And one of the women wrote this extremely sensitive poem. And it goes something like this in words. I have a best friend. My best friend is compassionate, always loving, unconditional love, always present, always encouraging. My best friend is that person that is so just filling my heart with love. And she goes on and on and on. And my best friend is this absolute loving, caring, most precious heart connection. And then she ends and she says, my best friend is my breath. And when I heard her share that poem, it's the breath of God, the breath of Baba. And I was thinking about the human body as I have for decades. What an incredible creation Baba has made. This human body so extraordinary, complex, functioning, eyes that see, ears that taste, hearing and seeing. And then I thought about something even maybe more subtle. Maybe it's not so subtle. The breath, that Baba, that God would create breath, the air that we breathe. So I kind of remind myself a little bit about these kinds of thoughts, because I know when I'm in my heart, when I'm breathing in the love of God, when I'm breathing out the love of Baba, breathing in the love of Baba, breathing out the love of Baba, very similar to Stu Baker's meditation approach of the heart, like a spiritual kissing cousin. Because like all of us, I'm in my thoughts a lot of the day. I get carried away. And all of a sudden I remember, breathe in the love of Baba, breathe out the love of Baba. Be like a child. Be like that beautiful, beautiful child that Rebecca looked at, and she completely left the reality that most of us live in at all times. And she is there where Baba takes her into the other room. The beautiful eyes of that baby, or the beautiful breath that we have, that we can really breathe in Baba's love. Breathe out Baba's love, whether we're in meditation or we're listening here or wherever we are. It does take a lot of practice, but man, what a wonderful friend to hang out with. It's more than a friend, it's the spirit. Speaking of how do you do that spiritual bypass? Yeah. And somehow it happens a little bit more, but like each of us, I try to find a room I can enter that is perfect, pure, fresh Baba love, sweet air. So
wow,
that's the way I try to do it.
And Eric says if you add Baba's name to that breath, it only enriches it all the more. Yeah.
Listening to Jeff Asbel describing the body and expressing, gratitude to Baba, just reminded me of Baba's quote, gratitude is the highest form of love. And it's beautiful to hear Jeff Asbel express his gratitude.
Yeah.
I just share that.
Yeah, the word grace, the gratitude is the human response to grace. They're from the same root, gratitude and grace.
When we surrender to the Master, to God, we become more intuitive. The culmination of listening to the intuitions that come with self-effacement and complete surrender equates with the sixth plane of consciousness. Love expresses itself on the sixth plane as complete and happy surrenderance to the will of the beloved. One is completely reconciled to the will of God. All selfish desires, including longing for the presence of the beloved, have disappeared. At that stage, one is aware of the how of the divine will within.
No, it's the flow.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's got how in my book.
Ah.
So that's strange. At that stage, one is aware of the flow of the divine will within. The kingdom of heaven opens up for us while we are here on earth. Even a child can experience God's will. perhaps even more so than an adult, who has a monstrous mind and an even bigger ego. This is why Jesus spoke of becoming like children, not childish, but childlike. We learn that we can trust in God, that God is trustworthy and dependable, more than we are. But to dare to go out on the limb of complete faith in God and depend on His will for us day by day in every circumstance requires a real effort, a real daring. I have had some experience with that, even from my early life when I was working on cattle ranches in the West. I was aware that I was doing things under the will of God. I felt that God was guiding me. This is something that is worth trying to experiment with, trying to see how we would deal with surrendering ourselves completely to God's will, without having a whole side issue of things that we can draw upon to please ourselves. And when His will goes contrary to what we want to do, if we are willing to do His will rather than go with our will, we will make progress towards experiencing His unlimited bliss, especially if we do it in the spirit of love. The sense of God's will coming through can be a steady, substantial, and reliable flow. Moreover, it is not so much like a message coming over a wire. It is an access to the presence of God. It is not something apart from God. It is an access to God. And this is where our consciousness begins to merge in God.
Ooh, beautiful. You know, I just mentioned that what Darwin means by God's will is to do the loving thing as opposed to doing the selfish thing. It would be better translated as God's wish. But I think of it, you know, it simplifies it by thinking doing the loving thing. I mean, we come to a choice point, whether to be kind of go with our selfishness or go with love, which is Baba's wish for us.
I don't live here anymore. Mayor Baba says, progress from one surrender to greater surrender is a progression from a minor conquest to a major one. Now this juxtaposition of surrender and conquest has always amused and startled me, because we ordinarily think of surrender as a negative thing, as a giving up, a letting go. We do not usually think of it as being a conquest, but Baba has put these two together. Surrendering the false self to the master is the first part of the major conquest over the ego. It's not a loss, but a victory. All this is part of the work that is the spiritual path. The grace of the paramount and grace is of paramount importance. I feel that my greatest strength comes from ceasing to struggle with things in the illusory realm and surrendering to the master, lining up with his will and accepting his help, his grace. In doing this, I experience security and stability, and I know I have at least one foot in the door. His divine love and grace dissolve any remaining veils. Through what Mayor Baba calls gradual stages of ego transformation, our old egoism is replaced by humility, which is based on the knowledge that the master is really doing everything. Our surging desires are replaced by steadily growing contentment and selfishness. Of growing contentment, and selfishness is replaced by selfless love. When we are at long last ready to turn towards home, towards our real home, we can heave a great sigh of relief as we surrender to the self of the Master. We die to the false and are born of the Spirit. We realize that we are timeless and we're never really enslaved by anything. We change our address. We say, quote, I don't live there anymore, quote. There is an actual sense of salvation that goes with this. Spiritual security and sanctuary are all due to the grace of God. Yay, Che Baba to that.
Yeah.
Che Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marge and I were just talking about something that struck me on the will of God, that the other section right before the last one, and how love expresses itself on the sixth plane. And I want to share with you guys. I think I've done it before in another capacity or another Zoom meeting or whatever. But I was having lunch with Merwan in Merizad about I don't know, 2007, I guess. And I spent most of the time talking to him rather than him talking to me. And I had some problems in integrating myself with a couple of people in the Baba community back in Mirabad, where I was living in the MPC there for, turned out, 15 years almost. And after we finished and I said goodbye to him, I mean, I don't know, I guess I got up, I was feeling gratitude that I was able to speak with him. And I walked around the side away from Mandalay Hall there and back out into the parking lot in front of the old dispensary building. And I was sitting on my little motorbike. I had an M80. It's an 80 horsepower motor. And so I could easily stand up if I needed to, even though I was sitting down at the time. And I was just commiserating getting into my own feelings about what had just transpired. And I looked up and there was Merwan standing, perpendicular to me, standing off my left shoulder. And he looked at me and he said, "Have you no words of consolation for me?" And my heart just exploded, and I jumped up and I just grabbed him and pulled him to me and said, "I love you." And then I let go. And he was just standing there with this big grin on his face. He just turned away and walked back to where he came from. And it was rather difficult motorcycling back from Merizad to Mirabad for me. But here's a man that I didn't know anything about him as far as who he was in the spiritual hierarchy and all that stuff until years later. When Danny Ladinsky related his story of working with Derwich and Merwan one day up to Seclusion Hill or partially whatever, and Danny asked Derwich, I don't know the exact words that he spoke, but it was basically, how do you know when you're with a saint? And Eric just looked around and pointed to his brother. And then I found out only 3 years ago that actually Merwan, who spent all his life practically with Baba, was a Salik of the sixth plane. And I said to Marge just now, before I got onto my platform here, that feeling of being totally human does not go away. at all.
Yeah.
So,
Beautiful. Yeah, in other words, you're saying that he himself would appreciate some consolation for
exactly.
himself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Just it still blows me away thinking about it.
yeah. Yeah, one of my friends said, I told him that Merwan was actually, Baba used to say, see that boy over there, he's a saint growing up. And so he went and said, Merwan, did Baba say you were a saint? And he said, yes.
Yeah.
But my own experiences, I feel that I'm just a cad. CAD. So, I mean, that was something.
He had a great sense of subtle.
But I mean, he was, when he said that, he was like serious.
Yeah.
In other words, you might be in a great
Yeah.
place inwardly, but like Jack said there, you're still very human, and you have all these feelings like everybody else. You probably don't dwell on them quite as much as everybody else, but you feel them. So,
shall I go ahead then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this song is called Keeper of the Lost Chord. Is the sound okay?
Yeah, so far so good.
Spinning endlessly in this madman symphony, my care is but to trust or believe his wish will care for me. Over hill and dale, filling up my pail, on and on I follow his footsteps and ease upon his trail. There are so many things that I may not choose. I could wish to have wings, but then I just mixed up with a verse, so sorry about that. Mayfair Baba, Lord of Lords, he the keeper of living's lost chord. He beginning, he is end, he the junction between God and man. I am not aware quite enough to see how the lines you trace for our lives ways gives us what we need. Every day I pray, Lord, please help me be all that I can be in your eyes. Let me sail upon your seas. There are so many things that I may not choose. I could wish to have wings, but then I'd be a fool. To be saddled with wings of a bird, when my heart's only wish to be heard, in a journey that only will be consummated where shore meets the sea. Meher Baba, Lord of Lords, He the keeper of living's lost chord. He beginning, he is end. He the junction between God and man. Out of prison, I'm released. I surrender my life at his feet. Hear the master, leave your gold. With its glitter, you're lost in your soul. Pray with laughter, sing out loud. The beloved is showing me how. Meher Baba, Lord of Lords, he the keeper of living's lost chord. He beginning, he is end. He's the junction between God and man.
Hey,
Avatar, Meher
thank
Baba.
you, Ray.
Take
Yeah.
a rest.
Dear beloved, please help, heal, protect, and clear us all from any dis-ease. Give us strength in body, courage in spirit, and patience in pain. We pray for your extra protection and love for all those in the path of the fires, the path of the floods, and the path of any pain or challenge, in the path of the virus or war. Help us to trust in you. We love you so and don't even know how we do. All we know is that we long to feel your presence everywhere, to see you in everywhere, in everyone and in everything, to hear your voice in all sounds and in the silence, to smell your scent in the breeze and in the stillness, to taste you in the words we speak, to think of you every moment, every day. Oh, beloved, how can we get closer to you so we feel no separation, only union with you? Help us feel that you are always in us, loving us, around us, protecting us, beside us, nurturing us, above us, guiding us, beneath us, supporting us, always loving us, protecting us, nurturing us, guiding us, supporting us, and always forgiving us. Help us to love you more and more and to love and forgive all more completely with your love and forgiveness. Thank you for sending us your teachers, your protectors, and angels to watch over us and to help and heal us. We're not worthy that you should come under our roof, but only say the word and we shall be healed. We offer everything to you, dear Lord, our all in all, our everything, our God. You have given us everything. Help us return and release it all to you for your use. Help us to share your love and mercy with all. Give us wisdom to know your will and courage to do it with your joy, love, and patience. Help us to know it is you, that it is always you, that everything is you, that everyone is you, that there is only you. You alone are and evermore will be. You always were, are, and will be. It is only you. You alone are. Thank you. We love you. Amen. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Exquisite. Beautiful. Jai Baba. Ooh, thank you, everyone. Boy, that was, and what a prayer. Boy, we should end every meeting with that prayer. Oh, lovely, March. Yeah. Whew. Beautiful sharing by everybody. after a while, well, anybody that wants to stay on for a heart-centered meditation, after a bit, Stu will lead us in that. Heart-centered Baba-filled meditation, I should say. Yeah. Well, we're coming down to the end of this book, folks. Yeah. Which Darwin wrote when he was in his 90s.
So Jeff, when we're done, why don't we just start over?
Well, we'll take we'll see what people feel, you know. I mean, we have been through it several times, and every time you read it, it's different because we are different. You know, we read it from a different place. Yeah. Yeah. Is everybody unmuted?
Everyone can unmute themselves.
Yes, everyone can unmute themselves if they like. Oh, yeah, Darwin has made this all very real. I mean, brought our consciousness into into the heart, and it's not imaginary. Yeah. Yeah. Any comments that anybody has to make, feel free.
Jeff, I would like to just share a little story.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed hearing Mary Ellen talking at the beginning about her experiences in Race Path and maybe Harlem. And you know, back in the 70s, I worked with the old community volunteer services in those neighborhoods, had the same kind of experiences and the, you know, knowing the love of the people there for Jane and Elizabeth and Kitty and for the center. But that quick story about the respect that Elizabeth had in the white community. So I was project coordinator for 2 different community projects back then, and had a meeting one day right on the side of Highway 501 with the health commissioner, and he had another county commissioner with him, and there was a county policeman I didn't know, and Denny Moore was with me. And so we're having this meeting, and all of a sudden the policeman just turns to one of the county officials and he points to us and he says, "Well, who are these 2 guys?" And without missing a beat, the county official said, "Oh, those are Miss Patterson's boys. They're good boys."
Wow.
And Denny and I just looked at each other because we had no idea that we'd been identified as being connected with Elizabeth Patterson and the center. But that was such a quick, profound experience. And that was enough for the policeman. He just said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Yeah, you know, when Elizabeth passed on, Kitty didn't shed a tear, you know, at the funeral and everything that we had downtown. But then a month later, the black community came up and said that they wanted Kitty to come down for their funeral, their memorial for Elizabeth. So she went down with Charles Haynes, and these families got up and started to say what Elizabeth had done for them personally in their lives and all the difficulties they had endured and how Elizabeth had helped them out, supported them. And Kitty, living, in the same house with Elizabeth, had no idea how much Elizabeth had done all these years. And then she, couldn't hold back the tears to learn what Elizabeth had done for the black communities down there, especially in a time when there was still segregation. So that was beautiful.
I know this woman, I'm getting to know her, and she was telling me, somehow I mentioned the center, and she said, I knew this woman who had something to do with the center, but she used to sit in front of me at church every single Sunday. And she said that, she heard that she had contributed somehow to the Mayher Center. And her family, I guess, was fairly prominent or something in the church. And so Elizabeth would sit in the front and right in front of her when she was a little girl. And she always felt that she was like such a kind and important person. And so now it's sort of an inroad, like I'm, can give her more information about Elizabeth that's around and stuff. So it was just kind of fun to have that happen.
Yeah, they were very aware of the community, and the first hospital in Myrtle Beach was donated by Elizabeth, and very involved in the community in a beautiful way. Yeah, wow. So in a little bit, we'll have this heart-centered meditation. Any other comments or remarks or anything to share?
Jeff, this is Janet.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say at the end of last week, you asked the question about people feeling their heart having gotten bigger.
Yeah.
Through this book and our conversations about it. And I definitely feel the result of that. I mean, and I've read the book on my own, again, maybe 3 other times, but it did not have the same, somehow, I mean, it's always been effective or I wouldn't have kept reading it, but doing it with this group has really made me more aware of that than ever. So I'm just grateful.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, because we're sharing the living experience of what Darwin is saying in our own way, in our own experience of these things, and it's so inspiring to hear how others experience Baba in their lives. Really. Boy. Yeah. Hey, we even got Brazil here. Lanita. Well, anybody want to do if there aren't any more like comments or anything sharing, you want to do this heart-centered meditation. It's a brief meditation, but it takes you to a very deep place with Baba. It certainly can. So go ahead, Stu.
Okay, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
So I'll ask everybody to please mute if you would. I'll ask you to close your eyes And just settle into wherever you're sitting or laying. And we'll let the world just melt away even a little more during this time. And start to breathe into your belly, as slowly and fully. And bring your attention to your heart and your heart space. And breathe into it. It's the home of infinite love and wisdom within. Our connection with Baba's infinite love. It's always available. So see and feel your heart space and take note of whatever you might feel and see as you do this. And keep breathing in. It's the home in you of infinite love. And now, picture somebody who you would like to share Baba's infinite love with. Could be one person or a group. And let your heart guide you. Just see who shows up for you. And get a good image of them and their heart space. And breathe into that. So this could be somebody you maybe have conflict with. Could be somebody you know is having struggles. It could be someone you already have a lot of love for and just would like to share more infinite love, but let your heart guide you. So when you have this image of whoever it is, and you're breathing into your image of this person or people and their hearts and heart spaces, take note of what you might feel and see. And now start to see Baba's infinite, divine, giving love just flowing into their heart and their heart space. So I have an image of a warm, liquid golden light just flowing in. But whatever image you have is okay. And this is healing, soothing, forgiving, infinite love. There's no end to it. And you never know what might come from sharing this. And you're not trying to change anybody. You're not trying to bring about any particular outcome. Just you're focusing on sharing this infinite love. And it can do surprising and magical things. And let yourself just sink in there with your heart as you see Baba's infinite love flowing into their hearts and filling their entire heart all the way to the back and the bottom, overflowing and flowing through. Just gift of infinite, unstoppable love. We can't use it up. There's no end to the supply. And see that love just overflow and flow through their hearts and through all of them, their entire being. And let yourself feel it and see it. Keep breathing into it. This is a love that Baba makes available endlessly for us. And just take note of what you might see and feel in yourself and in whoever you're sharing the love with. So we'll keep this up another minute. And keep breathing into the flow of love. And now let's bid farewell for now to whoever you've chosen and give thanks to be able to share this gift of love and know that you can return here again and again. And now gently return your attention to your own heart and heart space. And breathe into your heart. Notice what you feel and see. And now start to see Baba's infinite love pouring into your own heart. Just flowing and flowing. And see and feel the love just filling your heart and your heart space. And it's healing, soothing, forgiving. It's filling you without stop. And see and feel the love gently flowing through your heart and overflowing and filling all of you, your whole being. And breathe in as you see and feel the love just fill you. Just let your heart drink. And again, know that you can return here. Again and again. And now let's give thanks for this incredible gift of Baba's infinite love. And gently start to bring your awareness back to wherever you're sitting or laying. And let yourself take a few moments to adjust to coming back. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, if anybody would like to share anything, we'd love to hear from you, and just unmute.
Hi, it's Cindy. I experienced such a natural flowing of love without effort. I guess it was natural effort and grace, and I'm still feeling that just welling and overflowing all around me. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I second that.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jeff. Glad you're here. Oh.
Thank you, Stuart.
Ira, you're on mute. On mute. Are you? Yeah. Nope. You're on mute again.
Okay.
Good.
Before you were saying be thankful, and the first thought that came to me was this technology. Okay. Very grateful for this technology. So.
Yeah, that were.
Yeah. Thank you, Ira.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Right. Because I would have never met you, Stuart. You see, I mean, I see you now, and it's great.
Yeah, all these people.
I feel like I got to enter another room.
Right.
I had the experience of both leaving the room I was in and of sublimation. The experience of what we're reading about. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So, what a gift.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think that this is the room that Darwin lived in. Well, and the Mondeley lived in this room all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and yet they were so available to us.
Yeah.
It included us.
Yeah, I'm close to finishing reading the book, The Boys, about the Prem Ashram.
Yeah.
And Darwin and Esfandiar are giving some presentations together on the center. And there was a lot about being in this room. a lot of focus there.
Yeah, when Esfandiar and Darwin were in the same room, it was like Leibniz and Einstein sitting together and
Yeah.
and you know, with some of their students, so to speak. I mean,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
actually two people at the same level able to
Yeah.
be together.
And they had such love for each other.
Yeah.
actually kept low and went out the door and got out.
Yeah.
So it was, and I had a nuthatch in here before.
Jay Baba, everybody.
Yeah.
Jay Baba, Janet.
Great, so much gratitude for
Yeah.
everything and everyone. I mean, it's everyone's stories and heartfelt speaking and experiences. It just, I was thinking, I feel like I'm coming home from India.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think Baba really enjoys this, our getting together, you know, from his side. It's happening in his room.
I left this on. You want to hear any more of it?
I'm certainly very grateful. Very, very grateful.
I will.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
You know, Baba in the future said we would communicate by way of telepathy. But this is kind of like a rehearsal for that.
Yeah. Now, what's available inside is so infinitely powerful. The possibility.
Eric kind of conveyed that everybody is really inside of us. But,
Jay Baba, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Jay Baba, James.
Love to Ann in Colorado.
Jay Baba, everyone. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, I read a quote from Rumi. I think you know it. And I might be paraphrasing a little, but he said, I looked inside my heart and saw the world weeping.
Yeah.
There's so much Baba here. I just want to harness it all and keep it with me every moment.
And I really feel that Baba's going to move us into experiencing this thing permanently.
Yeah.
By stages. It's not like it's a reality that he's moving us gradually into.
Yeah, it's fitting because of the reading today about leaving the room. When I was meditating, I was thinking about, oh, you're ready to leave this room and what's going to go on in the next room? You know, will I be able to handle it? Right? It's like, whoa. Well, that's the one good outcome of the pandemic is that I know I went to Myrtle Beach and went to one Effort and Grace meeting, but look, now you can just tune in all the time. You know, it's like a whole different world opened up. Even, you know, yeah. It's amazing.
I used to be in such a rush to want to be in that space all the time, and like, come on, Baba, let's go. Let's just snap into it now. But the dance has been so beautiful. It's like I don't want to give any of it up.
Yeah.
That's a lovely comment.
Yeah, and it's as Kitty would say, Baba from his side is even more eager to draw us into this place than we are, and it's his great fun to try to coax us out of the room that we are in into a more beautiful place. And then there's a beautiful place beyond that, and one beyond that.
This has been a different level for me tonight. Usually at Sunday nights, I'm over here at the Gateway, and I miss Effort and Grace. There's many things going on here at the Gateway, oftentimes, and I just haven't been able to get on for a number of months now during the Effort and Grace time here. But tonight was special. It was, you brought home a couple of times how grateful we all could be if we'd only take the time to sit down and look at the gifts we've been given. And they're not the gifts that that one normally comes by. It's not the Christmas gifts or the birthday gifts. It's the gift of the heart. Stu, you told that very well tonight. And before you got to that, when you mentioned being down there in Race Path, what a heart gift that was to be able to work with Elizabeth and you and the other people that were down there. It's the same way here at the Gateway. It makes no sense that what good fortune I've had to be able to be here tonight. I'm thinking of you all there on the Effort and Grace. I'm thinking you're here with me too. You're at the Gateway. You may not be able to be inside the center, but you're inside the Gateway, and that's a beginning. And that's how it was in the years. We came through that gate, and the first time through is this real? Well, it is very real. It is very real, and you're all very real. So I want to thank you for, Jeff, the life that you and I have had together, and so many of these people here in the room tonight too. Thank you all.
None of them signed in, though. I don't know.
I won't tell Elizabeth.
Jenny, I think she's watching.
Boy, you remember, Jeff, when we were just standing down there at the hall at the hospital, and Elizabeth called us in? You remember that, Jeff?
Yeah, I remember it very clearly. Elizabeth was almost entirely paralyzed in the hospital bed. And we came in, and she wiggled her little finger to acknowledge that we were there. I mean, this lady that was so competent, so on top of things, so so dedicated to Baba, and as a way of acknowledging us, she was reduced to only one thing, just to move her little finger to say hello. Yeah.
That's the way it is with Baba, with me. It's what am I doing here? What am I doing here in the Gateway? What am I doing here in Myrtle Beach? He includes us to whatever level we want. And by God, I wanted to be close to Baba here. I wanted to be close to you all. And I'd know ahead of time sometimes when some of you are coming down. It'd be maybe 6 months or maybe a year. And all of a sudden, you'd be in my brain and I'd be thinking of you. And it's like Stewie was saying earlier, you know, we may not have to use all this sophisticated equipment. Maybe we can just do it with our hearts. And I know that can be done. I know it positively can be done.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard during the meditation when you said something to the effect of drink into your heart. That I'm going to take in with me, that the thirst or the hunger that I have is of the heart. So to drink, to eat, to breathe, to nourish, bring it into my heart.
You know,
That helps stop the mind so much too. You know, it keeps your mind more still.
Prophet Muhammad said, "The heavens and earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my sincere lover can capture me, can hold me."
Say it again, Jeff.
Prophet Muhammad said, "The heavens and the earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my sincere lover can hold me." Wow.
Oh,
Oh boy, oh boy.
it's powerful tonight.
Yeah, it's really. I was thinking of just, at the end of the book, I thought I'd just kind of bow out. But after tonight, I think, wow, I don't know. There's such richness in what people share and what happens here. I don't know. I might sign up for another tour of duty.
You better.
I think we're stuck.
Yeah. Jeff, I picture you kind of like Erich. You're stuck. You have to.
Yeah. Well, we'll
You're
see.
like our Darwin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see what Baba does. See how what people feel.
Jeff, I think maybe bow, take a break and a drink, and come back. a drink in the heart.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Well, normally you'd be off to India soon.
What's that?
I said normally you would be off to India soon.
Yeah, my first time in 50 years I haven't been.
Wow.
But there's a beautiful line, I've quoted it before, was one of my very favorite lines of Baba's, where he says, "All differences between one another are merely superficial.
Yes.
They cannot affect the love we feel for each other deep down." So we already love each other, and it's just, and we don't grow in love. We remove the superficial differences, and there we are.
Right.
There's another line I like of Rumi where he says, "The roads are different, but the goal is one. All those who yelled at each other along the way, 'You blasphemer, you hypocrite,' in the end wind up drinking from the same keg of wine and laughing out loud.
Yeah.
That's the way it's going to be. Except the people in Florida. I don't know about those people.
Well, we are still observing the quarantine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way I was thinking of an analogy, you see, when you go to India, Ahmednagar, you only have 3 or 4 activities. You go up to the hill, you go, down to the Pilgrim Center. You only have 3 or 4, and the same thing with this pandemic. You only have 3 or 4 activities.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of space.
Right.
A lot of extra space.
Right.
Well, I think I'm going to go and have some dinner. And Stewie, thank you for that beautiful journey into love.
Mm.
And hey, Lanita, good.
Hey.
She finally showed her face. I mean.
Well, I was here the entire time and enjoying this beautiful effort and grace tonight. I'm free from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate every sharing, and I was with you guys every second listening.
Wow. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, it really, we have
Yeah.
enough to fill the time for the next 700 years. We got enough material. So Baba comes again.
Yeah, right. We're gonna be ready when Baba comes back.
We could just go all.
And Stu, thank you for the meditation.
We could just effort and grace the next 700 years.
I have often thought that this pandemic. I have often thought that this pandemic and these recordings was exactly what Baba wanted, so that there could be lots of material for the next 700 years.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'll see all you folks. Much love. And Meph, we didn't see you physically, but I hope you're there from the Southwest. Yeah, and Peter.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna head
Thanks,
out
Jeff.
Yep. Jay Baba.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Bye.
Jai Baba, thank
Hey,
you.
Baba.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Much love.